Welcome to Braindrop by VCOM Solutions. Each episode, we talk to IT leaders and experts, explore recent projects, and learn from their triumphs and challenges. We hope today's episode provides you with a unique window into the world of IT, where creativity meets problem solving and technology drives businesses forward. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo. Now let's drop into today's conversation. Today on Braindrop by VCOM Solutions, I am joined by Leon Kallikkadan, the VP of Technology at Atrium, a company that helps employer brands staff and recruit talent and create technology-driven workforce solutions. Leon has been there for over 17 years, starting as a systems administrator and eventually becoming a proven leader with success aligning technology strategy with business strategy. Leon, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So we're going to talk a lot about tech today. But first, as we all know, our life is not our job is not our life. So what are some hobbies or things that you do outside of work and tech?
Sure. Outside of work in tech, I am a father of two. I am a diehard soccer fan, or where I come from, we call it football, which should be the right way to call it.
Yeah.
But I digress for now. And I follow a team in the EPL, which is the English Premier League, called Manchester United. So that's the team I've been following since when I was, maybe like in my teens. So follow them. I played soccer, try to play soccer every weekend. Doesn't happen all the time, but I try. And then outside that, I'm trying to run as much as possible. I used to be a gamer, but I'm kind of retired at this point. I'm stuck to mobile gaming, but I do remember, I do miss the days when we used to just get into, back in the day, we used to call it a cyber cafe. And when you used to just, you could get 10 folks, and then we would just play Counter-Strike with bots or against each other. That was like the best. And I stayed up a few nights playing Call of Duty and Commandos. Those are good. I do try to get back into as much as possible, but with kids, it's impossible.
Yeah, I bet. My brother grew up playing CS:GO and still plays that to this day. That's his game. That's his game for sure. Manchester United. One of my coworkers is a huge Man U fan. Were you a fan through good and bad, with Ronaldo, with no Ronaldo, with where it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started watching. I didn't even know about. I was like brand new to the EPL, and started watching. The first game I really fell in love was when we were playing Tottenham Hotspur. We were 3-0 down at halftime. I remember distinctively my father who was watching the game alongside me was like, "Shut down the TV. This team's not going to do any good." And then I was like, you know what? I think they are. And true enough, second half, they scored 5 goals. And I was like, at that point, I was a believer. I was like, this is my team. I'm going to live and die with it. And so, yes, that was a long time back. But so since then, before Ronaldo, all of that, so now as precarious our position is, I'm still in there. I'm on, my Twitter feed is full of news about Manchester United. I follow them. I try to hide behind the TV, try to avoid seeing it till I see the final score. So yeah, I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship because I love them so much, but I hate that they lose or they're not doing too well.
I'm actually the same way. I was a basketball fan. Golden State Warriors is my team, and of course we won a lot. But it got to the point where I couldn't watch the games anymore because I would get too stressed and too invested. I was like, this is bad for my heart. So I don't like. I'm such a big fan that I don't watch the games anymore. That's kind of the joke that I say, and so I totally get the whole stress. But the fact that was the game, that's such a cool game to watch, to turn yourself into a diehard fan. Just to go, I believe it happens. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's against all odds, right? Like especially when you've got someone telling you that it's not going to happen, you're like even more like, I feel like they can do it. So it's like more of that pressure. So that's kind of that's something that stayed with me since then outside soccer. But that's something that if someone tells me I cannot, that's been a fuel, or that's been that thing that lights me up, or like, I can definitely do it now. I will do it now. So yeah.
Well, we're very similar in that regard. If someone says I can't, I'm like, I can, and I will.
Yeah.
And even if I don't, it encourages me to try hard anyways. And
Absolutely.
and even if it's failure, I still consider it success because I tried. So
Yep.
I love it. All right, let's jump into the main sort of meat of the conversation. Leon, how did you exactly get started in your career?
Yeah, it's kind of a slightly typical story. So I come from India. So as most Indians, we get tagged into the tech world. So my brother was in technology. My brother-in-law was also in technology. So, and I was studying for something. I was trying to major in finance. So my father at that point, he was like, and we had school in the morning, so it was at 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. So which was horrible. But during the day, I would just do literally nothing. I would just play with my friends or go out, hang out. So he was like, you know what, you need to go for technology classes. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went into technology classes. I was going for classes for something completely different, like Oracle, DBA, SQL DBA, Visual Basic Programming, all of the coding stuff. And out of the place that I was going to, the institute that I was going to, they had they had all these clients come in and they were like trying to place everyone that came out of the program. So I ended up working for a company called Wipro, which is one of the largest technology companies in India at that point, and now globally as well. So I started working for them as an admin, as an engineer, as a help desk, and that was completely different from what I had gone to school for or what I had even studied for. So I did that for almost 2 years, and then I moved to the U.S. And since then I've just stuck with it. So that's how I started.
Yeah, you've been in the industry for so long. What's your favorite part about working in IT and tech?
Initially, in my early days, it was really trying to make sure that two things I learned as I was kind of early on in my career. I took a lot of pride in closing tickets fast, like SLAs. And I never really thought about it as SLAs. I thought about it as I want to close tickets as soon as possible. And I want to give everyone a good user experience. Like I want to make sure that people are happy with my service. So early days was all about SLAs, all about customer service. I wanted to make sure everyone had a good experience and they had good things to say about me and my work. As I started growing up or growing in my career, it moved more about tackling business challenges. I remember early on in my life at Atrium, my career at Atrium, I was in a bucket where I was just dealing with, support issues or user issues. And then we had a client need where we needed to transfer files and do stuff like that, which is traditionally not something that I would have done, but it was an opportunity that I took, and we created a process where we would automatically transfer data from our systems to a client system. And so that took a lot of partnership, but that was a start of something where I really loved working on business challenges as well, like solving problems, like technology, where technology can play a big role in solving a problem. That's what I love doing right now. And obviously, as I'm getting further along in my career, I want to the thing I love is try and bring tech that can really advance and really make things more efficient. So always looking for opportunities where if it can save my team, my members on my staff or my team time, I would love to do that. I would like to simplify things, but I want to be more sophisticated in the back. Technology should do the heavy lifting. We're not working for the tech. The tech is working for us.
Yeah. A huge mindset that I think not only that we need to sort of encompass in IT and tech, but in life in general, because tech is becoming so dominant, right? And really it's starting to shift to this fear of, is it going to take over? And we have to remember that it's there to serve humans. It's there to make our lives better. And we shouldn't lose sight of that and not just create tech for tech's sake, but to do it so we can live our lives better. And I think I love that reminder that keeps coming up. You said, a huge part of your job is to kind of make work and your staff's life more efficient, right? Save that time, and ultimately save that money. In order to do that, though, you also have to kind of keep up with the trends of tech and everything that's happening to know when to apply certain solutions to certain problems. So how do you kind of, you said you have your Twitter feed for
Yeah.
Man U and stuff like that, and you keep up there. How do you keep up with IT?
Yeah, if you told me that I'm going to sign up for Twitter like 3 years back, I would be like, no way. But here I am. I signed up for Twitter, and my interests are soccer, obviously, specifically Manchester United, but also technology in general. So I get a lot of my feed on tech from Twitter, or X now that they call it, and I am also subscribed to a ton of things. Right, so I do my own research. I do a lot of tech trends via LinkedIn, via other Reddit is one of my favorite ones as well, because I get a lot of good feed from Reddit. And then I'm signed up for like so many different newsletters and uh, streams of content from technology. YouTube is another good source for me. So plus it's one of those things where, as good example is, as AI started picking up, it's like, you start hearing about these things, but it does require you to spend time to do due diligence and understand, is it another shiny new object, right? Is it something that is actually going to really improve, or is it here to stay? Or is it just going to fade away, right? We did that with, a few years back, we did that with automation, where we brought in RPA tools, robotic process automation tools, to help automate some of our redundant tasks. So it does require to have enough sources to bring in that data feeds, or to bring in topics where you would normally not listen to or watch or hear about in your own bubble, because when you're at work, that consumes so much time. You just need outside sources. You need outside people, consultants to talk to and get and share about what's happening. Hear what's happening outside.
So you really have to make the time to learn and study and research. And I feel like this is definitely not an industry, but I guess a part of the business that has to do that more than most. You are always constantly learning and staying up to date, even when you're not working.
Yeah, I'll share this. When I was back in the day, when I was learning Visual Basic, that was Visual Basic 6, I remember. And one of the teachers kind of told me that, you just need to make sure you're kind of keeping up with technology. And I was like, wait, I have to keep learning new tech? That's going to be so much difficult. And then boom, within a year, VisualBasic.net came. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just so difficult. But then, you know what? It becomes it's like life, right? Life evolves so fast, right? It moves so fast. And if you want to be in a place where you just don't like a lot of change, tech is the last place you should be, because what is today is not the same as tomorrow. So you need to adjust your mindset to know that tech is evolving, and especially in the last few years, it's evolving at a much faster rate than it has ever been. So you just need to change your mindset as well, that expects changes to happen overnight.
Well, with that being said, and your answer today is going to be different from your answer tomorrow. What are you most excited about when it comes to IT and tech?
Right now, it's about AI, right? A lot. I'm one of those people. I'm a believer, because I do think that it serves a bigger purpose, to the point that you made earlier, that it's here for a reason. It's here to help us and aid us and make our lives better, right? There's a lot, as professionals, we as humans are doing a lot. We have a lot of competing. Life is not simple. It's complex, right? So if AI/technology can help minimize that, even a percent or even a point, that itself is impactful, right? But that being said, we just need to make sure that there's enough guardrails, there's enough checks and balances in place so it doesn't run away. Because whoever is skeptical or whoever is concerned is valid, right? They have valid reasons to be skeptical. And we should make sure that we build AI responsibly. But it can help in so many different ways. The thing that I think about, a very, very common example, and I don't know if you've recently been to a doctor's office, but if you go to a doctor's office, you have to fill out a million different forms. They ask you the same thing multiple times. And it gets to a point where like, oh my gosh, stop it already. I understand why they're doing it, but imagine what an AI can do. And even like we're trying to treat diseases, like you just need to take all the data points into account and then come up with a more informed answer. And it's at much faster rate. Like you don't have to wait for, 3 months to meet a doctor to diagnose you with, that you may be at a higher risk for something. Like those are areas that I really feel like AI can definitely exponentially help. And also like, there's other areas like I think in like privacy and security that I think AI can play a much, much bigger role. So that is one area that I'm definitely excited about. And I want to be part of that journey because I think it'll solve a bigger problem.
Yeah, no, for me too, it's very exciting. And I grew up studying medicine. I'm supposed to, well, the goal was to be in medical school right now and then be a doctor. And something that always came up was like, there's so much friction between the ability for this patient to get the information they need, but also so much friction for the doctor to be able to interact with the patients a lot too. Right. And there's a lot of redundancy and a lot of security and privacy that needs to happen because of all the laws around our data. But also at the same time, it's like we're missing out on the core thing, which is the patient wants to be heard and the doctor wants to get all the information needed to be able to treat their patient well. And I think that tech can really serve that as long as we go in the right direction, right? The last thing we want is the doctor to only be behind a screen and not talking to their patient either. So there's that balance.
Yeah. I mean, exactly to your point, right? If I go to a doctor's office, if I'm there for 15 minutes, I'd rather spend 14 minutes talking to the doctor. So the doctor and interacting with the doctor, than the doctor asking me a million questions, that things that he or she or the doctor could already have answers to. Like if the doctor is coming to a point where having this conversation from an informed position or having a holistic view, then the quality of care is much different, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree. The questions that the doctor can ask are more relevant and way more important because they already have the prerequisite answers to their to other questions. So I agree. But all right, that was awesome. I want to dive into your IT team and your environment because this is really unique and really interesting. You've been at this one company for 17, almost 18 years, maybe more than that. Yeah. But so talk about that a little bit. It's a very unique experience to me, at least, to really be at one company for so long. And so I kind of want to hear your sort of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, someone called me a dinosaur, but I come from a family where my father only worked his entire life. He worked for the same company. My mom, out of necessity, moved to another, but she only had she only worked with two. She was a teacher, but she only worked with two schools. But I've grown up in a household where it's so much about it is loyalty. So much about it is like putting the hard work and rising through the ranks. So that's something that I grew up with, and my wife is the exact same. So it's like it's ingrained in me essentially, right? When I started as an IT admin, and started getting, I could have easily stayed in my lane, but I started getting a lot of support from the business, from Atrium to kind of grow, like expand, spread my wings, and kind of trying to see what else. So that has been one of the biggest motivators that they've trusted me along the process. When I said I want to build up an automation team, when I want to build up this team or that team, or I want to focus on this, they've supported me through that because they've seen the bigger picture. They've seen how important something like that is, even though it requires a lot of investment. Even before security was a concern, I went and presented to my leadership team and said, I think this needs to be our focus. We need to start spending more dollars on security. And so my team has supported me, and they've also given me challenges, and they've questioned that, rightly so. But it's been one of those things where I've been given the right support. I've been trusted along the process, but also held accountable. I've been called upon to solve business challenges. Which is something that I love. So if it was, that's been one of the biggest reasons why I've been at Atrium for so long. Like no 2 days are the same, and no 2 years are the same for me. Like every year it's something different, and it's refreshing. It's not like 9 to 5 I'm doing the exact same thing. If that was the case, I would be out. I would be looking for something else because I do want something. And my day to day, my year to year offers me that challenge. My team right now, I have essentially 4 teams under me. I've got the traditional IT and support team that's responsible for, software, hardware issues, networking issues, security issues. I've got just my second team is an automation team, a business process optimization team, where they essentially build robots or they build they try to improve the digital experience to try and take legacy experience to a more modern experience via low code, no code. I have a business applications team that supports the CRMs, ATSs of the world. And then I have a web and integration. The last team that I stood up is a web and integration team that's responsible for all our web properties and also is responsible for integrating platforms or for platforms or systems. So 4 teams kind of under me. There's also the privacy aspect that I kind of run with business leaders or with business users. So it's primarily 4 teams that are responsible that work under me. It's not a big team. On the surface, it might sound like a big team, but we have just under 10 employees, internal employees, but where each of them has like a business process, BPO piece, right? So they all have partners that we work with that kind of extend the functionality, extend the team, and bring more expertise and resources.
Yeah. You said that, your day to day and your year to year is always different. It's dynamic, right? It's
Yes.
never sort of complacent. Well, what does your day to day look like exactly? Managing these teams, these employees, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So right now, my day to day, I'll give you a snapshot of what my day to day looks like. So managing these 4 teams and interacting and keeping all the projects and things moving, that is definitely a primary focus. We are also going through a digital like a replatforming where we are moving from one platform to another platform for our businesses. So keeping up with that, supporting my team in any which way possible. We're also preparing for an ISO audit. So that's also taking up a lot of time. So that requires a lot of time and effort in trying to solve and make sure that we are ready for compliance for the external audit. And then talking with our security partners, making sure that our privacy is kind of in line and is meeting the requirements. And then, solving for whatever business challenges are coming. So it's a lot. It's a lot of different types of things, which is, again, never a dull day, never the same thing twice. It's all different. But in a nutshell, that is what my day to day looks like.
And I think that's so awesome when we go back to your kind of 17-year, 18-year career with Atrium, is that you kind of developed a really good relationship of trust both ways, that they'll give you the support you need, but you'll also give them the results that they've come to expect. And so it's not like they're bringing somebody in every 4 or 5 years and redeveloping a sort of new process with a new person. They have someone that they can lean on, and you have a company that has your back. And I think that's a really kind of beautiful symbiotic relationship. And it's very rare, at least from my point of view, especially my generation's always about, job hop from job to job to job. And it's the same thing with sports, I find too. It's like no longer is the days of loyalty. It's about, where can I get the best position and best location for myself? And so it's really shifted. So I really like this unique perspective.
Yeah, and one more thing I can say is so that same thing that Atrium has. Atrium has trusted me with the process. I trust my team with the process as well, right? I if you look at my leaders, all 4 out of the 4 leaders, 3 of them are homegrown, quote unquote, right? 3 of them are like my IT manager was an IT admin before he was promoted to an IT manager. My manager of of automation, before she was manager of automation, she was a recruiter. And then the senior director of in web and integration, before she was a senior director of web and integration, she was on the marketing team. So my team grows, evolves, but one thing that's common with all three of them, and I'm not necessarily saying the fourth one because she came from that industry, but all three of them are people that have invested time in themselves, learned new skills, picked up new skills, like put their hands up when it's time, when it's time to be counted, and they're like, you know what, I can rise up to this challenge. So when someone does that, I'm halfway through. Like now I know that they are committed to the through the process and they will not give up. They live and breathe that every second, every moment in their days. And that's one thing that I do. So that's something that I look for in my team. Like I need everyone to be committed. This is a team effort. This is not a solo effort.
Yeah, especially in tech where the whole point of tech is to always be learning and growing and thinking. You can never be stagnant. So the fact that, one came from marketing, one came from recruiting is so interesting because it's like, yeah, it's completely different from what they're doing now, but it meant that that's probably one of the most capable people for that job because they are willing to learn at all times. So I think that's a really cool thing to kind of hone in on. You mentioned some things that you guys were doing, but I kind of wanted to talk about maybe a project that you were most proud of or an IT project that you really thought generated a lot of impact, kind of why you took that on and what the goals were for a project.
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a few in my career at Atrium. I could just say that I think while one of the projects that I took over or took on was the project from an automation point of view, right? It was this was several years back. This was pre-COVID, maybe 2019, 2018, 2019, when, people were just starting to talk about automation, and we were, that's something that we had some antiquated systems, antiquated processes. So that's an area that, I was like, is there an opportunity over here? So I started researching, started talking to people, and then we brought in an RPA one of the leading RPA technologies in-house, or we licensed them, and we started developing automations and starting to improve processes. Initially, it was more than what I thought I signed up for, because I was expecting that, you wave a magic wand and boom, everything is automated. And we were trying to automate everything under the sun. And then we quickly realized that's the wrong thing to do. So that's when, the likes of my manager of automation, she came in, and together we established a process. We established a baseline. We established, how do we do things? How do we go on? How do we implement a project? How do we develop the project? And then since then, we've developed numerous automations. Last year, just for one business unit, or at least we're projecting for one business unit, we are saving over 300 hours just for the finance team for one aspect of their job. So there's many of those stories where we will continue to receive, we will continue to see those that pay off with that investment. So, that's been one of the projects that, again, it took a long time coming, because again, when you jump into these things, you need to stop, pause, which we didn't do early on. We just dove in because you're like, let's just help everyone. You need help. This felt like an Oprah moment. You need help. Let me help you. But, little did we realize that it requires that infrastructure to be set up, that foundation to be set up, and then you can build on. So since we've established that and we've changed our own processes, it also depends on finding the right partner, because we don't have like an unlimited budget.
Right.
So finding the right business process, staff aug partner. We've built a lot of automations that are successful, that are benefiting our team. And now it's just, I wish I could do more.
Yeah, for sure. How did you really overcome that challenge? Because obviously you learned, but how did you initially overcome that challenge of let's automate everything to let's slow down and figure it out? What kind of jolted that sort of thought process shift?
Yeah, it came up as we were trying to automate everything. And then we would quickly realize that some systems will never do that. And also, it's foolish on our part to think that we don't need the end user or the business user to be part of the conversation and to be part of the process. Because when you try to automate everything, then you're going into processes that cannot be fully automated. And also, then that comes into people are questioning, like, what are we going to do next, right? Like, what is going to happen to my job, right? So it's very important to have that. And the other thing is not there may be business challenges that may not be business complexities or exceptions that cannot be handled by an automation. It requires a human touch. So that's where we kind of pivoted to, and some of our systems were beyond automation like that. They were so antiquated that we needed to find ways by which we needed a human element. So that's when we moved to, instead of automating 100%, let's automate the ones that take the most amount of time. That's repetitive. So even if out of even of the 100%, even if we can capture 40%, which takes a lot of the most amount of time, that itself is a huge win for us. And so we've changed our approach. We've pivoted to that. We brought in the human in the loop component. We brought in the man in the middle, whatever you want to call it, where the bot or the robot does what it's supposed to do and then hands it over to the business user to deal with the complexities, then the exception, and then the bot comes back in to close out whatever task.
No, I love that, because we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast, but it's about remembering that tech serves the human, and we have to see the human needs in order to figure out what the tech does rather than chase the tech. Because you're right, there's that fear, right? If you only chase tech, and let's say you were able to perfectly automate everything, you might have alienated so many humans or employees, because like you said, it's like, well, what am I going to do next? What's that? What you can, what's my job going to be? So tech can move fast, but humans need time to adjust to change, right? So, and to agree to change. So if you're like, hey, let's focus on removing the worst thing about your process, then of course, like a human will take that and then they'll have enough time to adjust, right? And figure out what to fill that time with. And then you keep on doing that slowly but surely. Tech's probably way ahead of us as humans, but again, it serves humans first. So we need to be able to shift our mindset and think human, and how can tech solve that human problem? So I kind of really like that you learned that in that process.
Yeah, it took a while, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you're still kind of trying to see places where you can continue to automate now. I mean, you have a robotic automation team, right? So it's kind of an ongoing thing that you guys are still trying to.
Yeah, it's still going to. And even when you move to a new platform, there's still limitations that, these tools need to stay on and support, right? Like even, one of the things that being signing up for one of the leaders in the market space is that they are also continuously evolving, right? They are continuing to evolve and they're continuing to add more value to their product. Like everyone has like an AI piece over here, but how do we go from automation to an automation 2.0, which has AI capabilities where, again, we're getting closer and closer to the possibility where we can, if there's more complexity we can bring into an automation, that it gets us closer to a point where the business user is coming in to analyze the work, to make sure that the work is accurate and meets a certain standards, versus sitting and actually doing the work, right? It's about maximizing the time an end user has to do other tasks. So it's not like they're just sitting idle. They're just using that time to do something else, something more qualitative, something that helps move the business or the company forward, or their team forward, or themselves forward, where they can add more value.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that shift. You brought this up a little bit earlier, but what goals and projects are next moving forward for you? What business problems are you now trying to solve?
Yeah. So right now, the current business problem is our ISO, like that they're working towards. But outside that, we acquired a company, UK-based company, last year. So now it's in the middle of a tech merge, or so we want to work towards a tech integration of bringing them over, bringing into our infrastructure, where we can comply with GDPR, where we can comply with all these regulations, but at the same time extend not just our user base, but extend our tech stack, right? See where the tech is, consolidate as much as possible if needed, or and in this process we may come across things that they do better than us, right? So I want to go through the process and see where there's room for growth on our team, and where we can bring over some of their capabilities to ours. So it's a good project to be working on. That's something that, while it's daunting, it is something that excites me, because I do think that no one is 100%. No one has, no one knows 100% of what's happening, right? You need you need people to come in and disrupt your business. You need people to come in and disrupt your thoughts. So this could be a good disruptor for us to improve our own processes and our own setup.
I love that. You leave room for disruption. You allow disruption to happen because you want it to happen, because and it's scary, right? Because disruption means you don't know what's going to happen next, but it also means that you get to move somewhere next and in a place that you never thought you could have before. So I think that's really cool. You mentioned you have a really small team and there are a lot of responsibilities. How do you, I mean, obviously one of your wishes is probably get a bigger team, but aside from that, what do you do to maximize the small team you have to get everything you want done?
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of really prioritizing what you're working on, right? Making sure, and the way we've structured our work is, there's a lot of work that, so for example, there's a lot of work that happens on the IT side that is not forward facing. Like my team is continuously improving and making changes and keeping up with some of the things that Microsoft is doing to enhance the experience, right? But at the same time, we have our projects every year. Towards the end of the year, we sit down, we kind of look at what the business requirements are, what the business approach is, what is the business strategy, and then we map out and then see what projects we want to work with and how they tie into the business goals and objectives, right? So at the end of the year, we go through the exercise of putting out our projects, prioritizing our projects, but giving ourselves enough room for drive-bys or 911 projects that may come up, right? And then taking a hard look and saying, what is a realistic time frame that we can kind of do these projects? Again, as I've learned, as I've evolved, I've also understood that, no one can go at 100 miles an hour every day of their lives. They need breaks. We need time for people to push a project, implement a project, but we also need time to make sure there's adoption and that project is working as successfully as possible, right? What you've implemented, you need to give it time and you need to be watching over it to make sure that it's effective and it's doing its job. So we were not giving ourselves enough time. I was not giving myself enough time and moving on to the next thing. But now we started to really pause, make sure adoption is high, make sure that we are seeing the metrics and KPIs we expected to, and then moving on. The other thing is, it's very important to, in my case, because I have a small internal team, but I have with partners and contractors and other third-party business partners, it's a lot of that is also down to finding the right partner. Because if you find the right partner who is capable and who can work differently and work in a more mature manner, that is going to exponentially increase or decrease the time spent on projects. So, if they are capable enough, they're strong enough, then that means that the work behind the scenes, the BAUs are getting done. And so your core team can focus on projects, but at the same time, they're capable enough where you can bring them onto a project and they can definitely jump in. So it's a combination of both, but ultimately you need to plan further. You need to plan out, but you also need to give yourself enough room where you can react to a business need. And these things happen all the time. So I don't want our own priorities to be put by the wayside because now there's a business priority. So I want to try and see where we can do both.
Yeah. I have two more questions for you to kind of close. The first is kind of a wish list question. If you could have anything you wanted to help you do your job better, what would it be?
Wow. I think the most obvious answer is more members on the team.
Yeah.
Like more resources, which I know everyone wants and everyone has. Other would be, this may sound odd, but technology that or tech. So we sign up for a lot of SaaS applications, right? Everyone signs up for SaaS applications or applications. It's just for them, for the developers and the ones who are building these applications to really, really understand what the consumer wants, the customer wants, and build something that is sustainable, something that works. not something that needs 2 years of support and build and just like a whole army of people to go in and support it. Again, technology should be, for the end user, technology should be simple. It should be doing things behind the scenes. That's something that I always wish for it. Like anytime I onboard a new vendor or a new application, I'm like, I just hope it's simple where our end users adopt, but at the same time, sophisticated enough where it can meet the business challenges. It's a unicorn, but I keep hoping for that unicorn every day.
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, we want it to be simple, but we also want it to be sophisticated enough to work. And so it is that very, but if you find that, then that's a gold mine of a software or a product, right? They've done it right.
Right.
And finding that perfect balance is, I think, what companies should be looking for, right? You want to optimize the end user experience while giving them what they need. So, I'm with you there. So the final question, and this is kind of your soapbox moment, even though the last 40 minutes have been your soapbox moment. So to close, what are some of the greatest things that you've learned in your career that you'd like to share with the audience?
Wow. I mean, someone who's done it, who started for someone who started, IT journey on my, I'm saying this on my own, meaning I started off as a small team. I thought I could do everything by myself. You cannot do everything by yourself. You need a team. You need a strong team. You need a team that you can trust, that you need a team that you can delegate to. And this is a moment where my boss, she was the one who was like, Leon, you need to stop trying to do everything yourself. You need to start by delegating work to other people on your team. And if they're not capable enough, they're not able to handle that, then you need to find the right people. So a lot about my position, where I'm now, is about making sure I have the right people. So I would just say, it's very, very important to find the right team. It's important that you have people you can trust and people who you think are capable of. It's easier to teach someone, for me, that something that I believe in. It's easier for me to teach someone technology than ethics or the values that I really look for, which is ownership and commitment and things like that. Right? It's very important to that. The other thing I would say, I reflect a lot. I play out scenarios that I've lived through. Could I have handled that better? So I think a lot. I am not someone who's afraid of my own limitations, and you just need to find ways by which you can gap those limitations. I know my strengths, but I also know my weaknesses. And so you need to find, going back to the team structure, you also need to find a team structure where you have the right pieces. It's a jigsaw puzzle. You need the right pieces in your team to be able to complement and support each other, because without the team, you're an individual contributor, and probably long-term is not sustainable. Right. And then I would just say that being very, very close to the business now more than ever is very important. Like IT was a operational team. IT was like a silo in a corner over there, literally in a corner, which I was used to in the past, growing up. Now IT needs to be the one that drives the business. IT, all the functions, critical functions, are all technology functions. And knowing that IT is a driver of business, I challenge my team to kind of think about ways by which maybe we're not a cost center, but we can lead to more revenue and growth. So that's one thing that I look for right now. And then, just making sure that, I said this before, but having a strong, trusted group of partners is very important. Like knowing that who your business partners are, having a community or a bench where you can call upon this vendor for that response, this need, but having one that you can kind of call upon anytime you have a 911 or an emergency, that is super critical. And then the last thing I would say is that, something that I am always, and I tell my kids all the time, be curious, ask the question, go do your research. If something piques your attention or your interest, go ask, see where you can find a need that can help solve a problem for the business, right? So really, really be curious, and IT is all about being curious, for me at least. So, I mean, that would be the 4, 5 kind of things I would leave you with.
I love that so much. I think that's an awesome answer. Definitely something I want to I think a good reminder for me too, to be curious, to know my limitations, but to then also use that knowledge of my limitations to find how I can bridge it. And ultimately that becomes working together as a team, right? And knowing that that's more important than standing on my own and trying to do everything by myself. So, well, Leon, thank you so much for your time today. This was an awesome conversation. I'm glad that we were able to have it. I wish you all the best, and let's keep in touch because I want to hear, how you continue to solve more business problems in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, Leon, take care.
Thank you.
VCOM Solutions is here to help make your IT projects and day-to-day operations as easy and efficient as possible. If you'd like to see how VCOM can help your organization save time and money, request a demo at vcomsolutions.com/demo. Do you work in IT? Be a guest on Braindrop. Go to vcomsolutions.com/Braindrop guest to sign up. Thanks again for dropping in. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can find us on social media at VCOM Solutions. Until next time.